Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out today. My name's Jenelle Riley. I'm the film and television editor of Backstage. And on behalf of Backstage and the SAG Foundation, I am so thrilled to welcome you to this Conversations with Moneyball. One of the best films of the year, possibly the best sports movie ever made. Even though it's not about sports, it's a metaphor. This is a spectacular film that features outstanding performances from a great ensemble cast, two of whom are here with us today. First, I'd like to welcome an actor who has shown such range in films as varied as Superbad to Cyrus. He is a SAG and Golden Globe nominee for his performance as Peter Brand in Moneyball. Please welcome Jonah Hill. You want to go on? Oh. And Brad Pitt. You're right here. I had this spectacular intro plan for Brad that I worked really hard on, but I guess you've heard it all. Thank you for being here.
Thank you guys for having us.
Congratulations on a wonderful film. Because this is a SAG audience here, I was wondering if I could start by asking how you got your SAG cards.
Oh, I'll tell you how I didn't get my SAG card. I did extra work for maybe a couple of years, 2 to 3 years, something. And I got on a Charlie Sheen film. I was an extra, and I was very, very excited. And I got to be the waiter. You know, they pull you out of the crowd, and you're going to be the waiter, and I'm supposed to serve champagne. And you know, the deal is you got to get a line in. You say a line, at least it was at that time. You say a line, Taft-Hartley, you get a card. And so they show me how to pour the champagne. It's a big dinner scene, D.B. Sweeney and a few others. And I'm supposed to go up to the woman in the film, and I just pour the champagne. And I pour the champagne, and I go, "Would you like anything else?" and immediately the first AD came and pulled me and said, "Don't do that." She literally looked at me like, because everyone knows the game.
And how about for you?
But I was an extra in a Morrissey video. Yeah, and then I got my SAG card on I Heart Huckabees. It was my first movie. Yeah, so I got lucky. It was a pretty interesting set. I don't know if you've seen those videos. So it was great though. I had a really great experience and got to work with, a lot of great actors like Mark Wahlberg and Dustin Hoffman and Jason Schwartzman and David O. Russell.
Was that the first movie you'd ever auditioned for?
Yes. And then I
You're a
thought,
dick.
no, it was the first movie I ever auditioned for, and then I got it, and I was like, oh, great, I'm a movie star. This is amazing. And then I didn't work for 2.5 years. I didn't, get any work or anything like that. But I got lucky, and I had like one line, so it wasn't a massive part or anything. And then I had 2.5 years where I assumed it was as easy as my first experience was to get work, and then I realized how difficult it was.
Well, you've both come a long way. And I want to start at the beginning with Moneyball. Brad, I know this is a project you've been involved with for quite some time, not only as an actor but a producer. How did the story of Billy Beane come to you? And were you familiar with the book upon which the film is based?
Yeah, Aaron Sorkin described in making this film the other day. He said, there are easy films, there are difficult films, then there's 50 Feet of Crap, then there's Heaven's Gate, then there's us. It was an arduous undertaking, but I first got into it from, there was a first attempt at a script, and I felt like there was something there, but it was geared to more a major league kind of slant, more comedic, and then I read the book and became rather obsessed with this idea of this man's story, this man who felt like he was labeled a failure in some way, these ideas of value, how we value ourselves. You know, what are we worth? What are we worth to each other? And then is this system even accurate? And then we started, and then we really started, and it took. You know, economics is not the most edge of your seat subject matter, so it took us, you know, a few years to get it right, and then ultimately it was. Then the studio forced Jonah on us, so we worked around that, and.
I am the box office titan in this room.
And we found Bennett Miller, who really, I mean, he's not getting enough credit for how much authorship he has of the film. I think he's going to be one of our best.
He's so brilliant.
And how did you become involved with the film?
I was cast, and then they said, "Who do you want?" And I went through. George said no, and then Fassbender said no, and Gosling said no, and then finally I landed on Brad, and I was like, "Sure, give the kid a shot. Let's give him a shot." No, I was on the bottom of a laundry list of fine dramatic actors, and Bennett and Brad, you know, were willing to give me an opportunity to do something completely different. And I had just done this movie Cyrus with Catherine Keener, who's an amazing, amazing woman, an actress and friend. And I think you described it as she's like the sun that we all orbit around, and we all kind of knew Keener. And when they needed a director, she say Bennett's amazing. She had worked with Bennett and hooked you guys up, and then Bennett was thinking of who was going to play this character, and we had done Cyrus together, and she had said, you know, Jonah is actually a good dramatic actor. You should give him a chance to do something, and then these guys let me try something different. They took a chance, and I'm really grateful. That was it. And I begged them to let me be in the movie. It wasn't like a choice for me.
We did a read through, and Jonah was there. We all were amongst friends, just trying out the script, and it was a no-brainer for us.
Didn't you have to get Bennett to see Cyrus, but it hadn't come out yet?
Yes. Yeah, I did a Truman Show on Bennett, but he claims that I already had the part now. I just read an interview that he said he already had the part, and it was now a moot point. But I had seen Cyrus, and Catherine had seen Cyrus, and I knew that it at least showed me in a different light than you would normally think of me as. And I knew if Bennett saw it, he would see, you know, just that I'm capable maybe of trying something different. And so, but the movie wasn't finished, so I asked Mark and Jay Duplass, who made the film, who are amazing, by the way. If you ever get the chance to work with them, you should. I told them I really wanted to show it to my parents because they weren't going to be, like, they were leaving town or wouldn't be able to come to Sundance or whatever, and that was a lie. And so they were nice enough to do like a friends and family screening for me, but it was also I could bring Bennett and show him. And Bennett saw it, and then the next day I got a phone call.
You already had the part.
But then I know. I just found that out, so I kind of lied to my friends and did this whole ruse for no reason, I guess. But
I have a question actually from Karen Devereaux of Charlotte, North Carolina. Wants to know if before getting involved with this movie, were either of you familiar with the intricacies of the way professional baseball was played?
You know, you think of, this was another idea that they took me into the film. I'm a sports fan. You see sports as a competitive, level playing field. One team takes on another team, an individual faces another individual, and the best man, the best team wins. I was not aware of the gulf in the difference in payrolls that these teams are experiencing, and
the
how
art of winning an unfair game.
Yeah, this is the title, the second bit of the book, and I got really taken with that idea that it is not fair, and when they do get groom talent, then that talent gets poached. So how are you going to compete? How can you remain competitive in any way? And so that these guys saying, okay, we gotta re-question how we do everything. We're gonna go back to the beginning. I mean, what made sense 100 years ago, does that really make sense for us today? I thought that was an interesting idea.
Either of you play baseball growing up?
18 stitches. Pop fly, high noon. Still got the guy out.
I played for the Dodgers for 9 years. Yeah, it was pretty great. No, I played Little League and so forth, but never took it extremely seriously. I enjoyed it. It's like, you know, I think part of the joy, as you guys know, being an actor is when you get to play a part sometimes, part of the research you end up getting to rediscover something you either didn't know you loved or something you loved and lost that you kind of get to refine again. I think it brought me back to when I was a kid and I loved baseball and watching it and playing it when we got to research for the movie and get into it again. So that was really exciting.
What sort of research did you do to prepare for your roles? And Jonah, I know your character's kind of an amalgam of several people, but were you able to meet any of the real life people involved in the film?
She said Jonah.
Oh, no, she said
that's
you
me,
guys.
right.
Yeah, no, you said you guys.
No, we did. We spent a lot of time, over the years of getting this thing right with Billy and inside the A's organization, and we met with a lot of the sabermetric guys who schooled us on the science of it all. These scout scenes actually developed from a workshop we had one day with real scouts. 30 scouts came out to give us their opinions on sabermetrics, and Bennett was looking around and challenging them, and they were getting very vocal about their beliefs, and he was looking at these faces and he said, that's going to be the scene, and ended up pulling a lot of those guys into the.
It was actually, that's actually an interesting thing that I haven't gotten to talk about a lot, but those scouts genuinely felt the fire and hatred towards sabermetrics that they do in the film. Mm-hmm. Most of those people are those people that he was just talking about. So I didn't want to become like chummy with them when we were shooting, because it was, when I did walk into the room, it did feel like I shouldn't be there and they didn't want me there. And I tried to keep that representation of opposing ideas. I thought that was interesting to represent that, because you did feel that when you bring this stuff up to those guys, you really do see their faces change and you see their anger, because it represents them not being needed anymore in their careers and what they've spent their lives doing. And on the other side of that, I got to spend time with people like Paul DePodesta and Theo Shapiro, who use sabermetrics within great success in real life. And then Billy, I know you spent time with him, and I got to meet him, which was really exciting. And I also had to read I had a tutor for a bit that was a statistics tutor. I'm awful at math. And then I had to read Bill James's book, which is literally, I'm not kidding you, this thick, and it reads like just a bunch of zeros and ones. It really is. And Bennett just gave, this day I got the part, Bennett sent over, I'm not kidding, probably 10 books that were this thick. And I just tried to learn as much as I could so it sounded like a language I spoke.
And Brad, were you able to meet Billy, and how excited was he that Brad Pitt was going to play him?
I think he was sanely terrified by the idea that a movie was going to be made of it. He's a humble guy. He prefers to be in the on the sidelines. But we did spend a lot of time, not necessarily to pick up quirks, or I felt a kinship with him from the book that Michael Lewis wrote, that as he's described there, and we just kind of spent most of the time just ripping on each other, like who dresses you, the PGA Tour, what are you? And
he's such a cool guy.
Yeah,
really.
he's good as gold, but was certainly I think they sold the right. Michael Lewis told him to sell the rights. Don't worry about it. They'll never make a movie out of this. And he was a bit horrified when I wouldn't let it go.
I saw Michael Lewis, I think it was on The Daily Show, saying he thought this movie would be terrible, because how could you make a movie from this book? And he was so impressed with what you guys did. Out of curiosity,
we were relieved. we felt the heat. We were relieved.
You've played real people before, and obviously you couldn't, consult with Jesse James, but when you're playing a real-life character, how tight are you to imitation, like trying to get those quirks down, the voice, the look, and how much do you just want to create your own character?
Again, I'm not trying to do an imitation. I think it's, it's what's going on the inside. What's he wrestling with? And again, you know, we're trying to tell a particular piece of a human being's life within 2 hours. The goal is to get the essence of what they were dealing with at that time, and that, you know, that becomes the focus. And then the other guys in the A's organization will rat him out, saying like he's always got food and, you know, on his suits. He's a bit of a mess that way. So you pick up little things like that, but I'm not looking to mimic in that way.
That's interesting because several people have mentioned how much you're seen eating in this film. So that is a Billyism?
Yeah, he's a bit of a junk food maniac, and then tries to go run it off, you know, for 2 hours afterwards.
What was the most difficult part of making the film? If there's a particular scene that was hard for you? If you've seen the blooper reel on this film, you know Brad had difficulty with a particular scene where you couldn't stop laughing. There's like 2 minutes of you laughing.
What scene?
My favorite scene in the movie, actually, when you're showing him the clip of the guy who hit a home run and didn't know it. What was so funny that day?
I can't tell you what he said. It's so wrong. It's so wrong.
Oh, it's something he said.
So
Just think,
stupid.
this is the guy who did Superbad. Just head in that direction and then go further.
Movie shoots, sometimes you're there for like 12, 15 hours, and sometimes you get joy out of trying to make the other person laugh when you're not on camera. I think that is one of the gifts of being an actor, is trying to see how someone handles when they're getting told the dumbest things on the planet and they have to actually react like they're watching something serious or moved by something. I don't know. We had a great time. I had a really great time.
I know you did.
I had a really great time. No, I laughed a lot. You know, obviously the sets I came up on, you know, were sets where there were lots of really funny people, and the movies I made a lot growing up in this business were really funny movies where the atmosphere of the film, we were just trying to, like, when you're in a film set, you're kind of trying to create the atmosphere of whatever you're trying to portray on film. So a lot of the earlier movies I made were about people hanging out and making each other laugh. So that was kind of how I know how to behave on a film set. And then obviously Cyrus and this film were different vibes of the set. But then, you know, with Brad and I's character, we had to be guys that met each other, and then, you know, these guys really did become close in real life and had a lot of fun while they were doing this, really. That when we met Billy and we met Paul DePodesta, I remember them saying, I just hope you capture how fun it was when you're in the video room all night, and when you guys know when you're working on something for long hours and you are doing work and it is intense work, but you're there for 12 hours and these guys did have a good time with each other and would laugh and throw the ball back and forth and do things that we did in the film that I thought was enjoyable to kind of capture that and make sure that translated, if that makes any sense at all. But I think a moment like us having a joke where he's laughing and being stupid for a second, that is what happens when you're cooped up in a room working on anything, you know.
And this was like a submarine, you know. There's no windows. It's the bowels of the Coliseum, and our sets were that. So it's literally, I mean, just to see daylight was a pleasure. But as far as difficulty, you know, it was difficult to. You're dealing with a story that's, I mean, as he says in the movie, these are upscale problems. They're not. It's not real problems. No one's dying. No one is sick, and trying to keep this story on track every day. I mean, it was there's so much information that we kept having to corral and keep our through line, and we kept having to go back. What's the story about? It's about value. It's about finding value. Okay, so get rid of that. Get rid of that. Something else that was interesting that I think is particularly interesting to actors. Bennett was he was intent on bringing in real baseball insiders. Therefore, they're not actors. The baseball players, a lot of the scouts, they're not trained as we are. And he very wisely said, "Don't say the lines. put them in your own words, put them in your own words, put them in your own words. And so then then it became incumbent on us to respond to that. And which you know, it can be very exhausting. You got to be on your toes at all time. And these guys know baseball certainly more than we do. The interesting thing, and it was the same thing in Tree of Life, working with kids that didn't know the script and weren't actors. The interesting for us is there's a spontaneity that happens. There's a freshness that happens that's up on the screen that I really, really enjoy. And I think I'm questioning myself how to bring that into future projects, because I think it makes that little bit of difference in what we do to become more alive, because it is, you are really on the moment. We have technique, we try to get to the moment, we have different ways to do that, but this particular, I mean, you're punching it out. You are punching out, and we were punching it out every day. And anyway, I thought it was, I hope to be able to do more of that.
Yeah, to me, the most difficult scene and my favorite scene I've ever shot in a movie is in this movie, and it's maybe a 30-second scene, and it wasn't because of the shooting it itself, but it's the scene where I tell Pena he's been traded to another team, and basically it wasn't the scene itself, it's what it represented, and the difficulty came from understanding this idea of what the scene was actually about. Because on the surface, it's just me going in and saying, you've been traded to another team, and then there's an uncomfortable moment, and then I get up and leave. But I think with Bennett and Brad, it was us talking for months to understand what each one of these scenes actually meant under the surface. And to me, that scene represented a kid getting, you know, all of his ideas being executed on the highest possible level. And it's all fun, and responsibility has now become really fun and empowering. But then he has to go literally tell a man that his life has been affected negatively by my ideas. And that's a really powerful, like, it's understanding the dark side of responsibility. And it's a 30-second scene where a guy kind of grows up. And understanding that idea is what was difficult. Like, knowing that that's what that scene actually meant. And it wasn't just me saying, you've been traded, and then, you know, that things mean a lot more than what they are on the surface. And that's what Bennett, when we talk about him being so great at his job, I think he is just so interesting that everything he does has so much below the surface meaning to it.
It's a great scene. I actually remember it very vividly, how well all the players actually do take being traded or sent down. I was expecting someone to go crazy.
It's part of their lifestyle.
Yeah.
Quite used to.
We actually have another audience question from Steve from Valencia. Wants to congratulate both of you on your work. Love the film, and particularly the connection between you two. Out of curiosity, had you met before, and was that chemistry instantaneous?
Only that one dark night when we drank too much and I woke up in a pool of urine. It wasn't mine. It wasn't mine. No, I'm sorry. We were up late. We were up very late. I was just a fan of Jonah's stuff. I think what these guys are doing, you know, sometimes comedy gets put over to the side, and yeah, it's some of the toughest stuff. One, to pull off, but two, these guys have been bringing in this pathos and humanity to it. I've found it to be some of the most daring stuff in the last few years, and so I was a fan and had. Oh, Milan.
Yeah.
That's it. Yes, that's right. It was a Radiohead concert, and they gave me some swank hotel. I wasn't staying the night, and I turned it over to, it had like a bathtub on the second floor with glass. So I don't know what happened.
This interview makes my life sound so cool. It's so much cooler than it actually is. But this was the one night, man, if I knew you guys better, I would tell you all about this night. But I was traveling. Gosh, it's such a great story. But yeah, we went to see Radiohead together in Milan because we had mutual friends. This was 5 or 6 years ago or something like that. And he had this incredible hotel room and then wasn't staying the night. And so I got it. But then there's this whole other thing. Okay, so but whatever. It was really great. And we had a great time. And then we didn't see each other again for many years. And then the next time was about Moneyball. That was when we started on this process.
And was the chemistry between you two pretty instantaneous, or did that develop over time?
It was for me. I enjoy him a great amount. Like, you know, it's funny when a lot of the fun of this process is getting to do this kind of thing like right now. You know, we get along great. He's gonna make a joke, but we do get along great. I know he is, but we do get along great.
I appreciate. You know, what we do is it's a team sport. There in this movie certainly there's no Billy without Pete, and no Pete without Billy, and together that was true about the guys in the book, Billy and Paul, that they could not have pulled this thing out. They were, one needed the other's knowledge, and the other one needed him to implement the ideas.
The other's weaknesses were the other one's strengths in their work.
What we do is the same. I mean, it's a team sport. What he was doing, which I thought was so bold. I mean, it's a study in reserve. You know, we feel like we need to do something. I just thought it was really bold stuff.
So you either have to tell us what happened in the hotel or what you said to make him laugh so hard. Give us one.
I can't, honestly. I really would. The thing, they're so stupid. They're both so stupid. Like, honestly, this has been the greatest experience of my entire life. Every day on working on this movie, till now, till doing all of this stuff and getting to talk to you guys, like you guys actually caring what we have to say about our work in this film. Every single part of this has been an incredible, incredible gift for me. So this is just really exciting. And if you notice, I totally avoided both of those things. I'm good at my job. I know how to avoid this stuff.
The other part of Steve's question was actually, there's a wonderful moment in the film when you're negotiating trades and Jonah's character corrects you on a player's name. Your response is so spontaneous, it made him wonder if that was scripted or improvised. Either way, it was true artistry.
Is that Steve?
That's Steve.
Thank you, Steve. No, that one was actually, there was a lot of ad-libbing in that, not ad-libbing, but invention in that scene, but
that was scripted.
Because it was a long scene, but that was that was scripted.
That's my favorite scene in the movie. Just as a viewer, those trade scenes were so fun to shoot. They were so like high energy. Mm-hmm. They shouldn't be exciting, but they are. You know, it's interesting.
What about your response? The come on, where you like go to hit his hand and then kind of pull back.
I think I just did that. Yeah, that was a choice. I love. I mean, this probably sounds so arrogant or whatever, but I really love my character in this movie. I watched the movie. I wish I was as lovable as that guy. You know, like he's such a lovable guy. He's never had like victories before, and he's always blended into the wall. So when these ideas are getting executed, it's so thrilling for him, and he kind of doesn't know how to show excitement for himself. You know, he's so excited. So those moments were so fun because he is so bottled up, and then he can't. It's like the first time he's ever let out something expressive. You know, it was really fun to play. So you get to make choices like that, and you know, that was really fun.
It's such a great moment. It's one of my favorites. And I've already told you you have my favorite line of the year in any film. I feel weird quoting you to you, but he hit a home run and didn't even realize it. Yeah. Such a beautiful scene that apparently you were laughing throughout.
I want to see this blooper reel.
You haven't seen it?
Is it on the DVD?
Yeah. It's like 2 minutes of him laughing hysterically and not able to finish the scene.
That's hysterical.
I'm wondering if we can go back to the beginning of your careers. When did you realize you wanted to be an actor?
For me, it was I grew up in Missouri, Oklahoma, Missouri, and I loved film. I had this profound love for film. My folks would take us to the drive-in on summer nights, and we'd sit on the hood of the car, and he would take us to see Clint Eastwood movies, and what I'm saying, R-rated movies. Even though we're very young, we'd go see what my dad wanted to see. But I just had this profound love for storytelling, this medium that shows us other cultures, places I'd yet traveled, and place I wanted to go, or said something better than I could say it, or helped me understand something. You know, I think it's just an amazing thing we get to do. We're so complex. We're mysteries to ourselves. We're difficult to each other, and then here's this storytelling that reminds us we're all the same. And I consider it such a privilege. But it started with a love from growing up in a very small, contained environment, and film was expansive to me.
That's interesting. That sounded sarcastic. I didn't ever heard that answer. I think it's expansive. It was interesting. I wasn't being sarcastic. Damn it. No, I meant like that's interesting that it seemed. Man, this is terrible. It was interesting. That wasn't. God, that sounded awful, but I genuinely, the idea of it being able to expand your life is interesting to me, because mine was it was almost the opposite, where if the world seemed crazy or overwhelming, going to movies was like an escape, or like, you know, that was the opposite of my love for movies, because I've always been a cinephile, and to me it was like when things got overwhelming or life was stressful, to watch a movie and get engrossed in that was what made me happy and escape. So to be able to provide that for other people, like the most meaningful compliments to me are always from fans or people who say, I was having a really bad day, or I got some bad news and I went to see your movie and it made me forget about it for 2 hours, because that's exactly what I do with the movies I love. So that was the impetus for me wanting to help create moments like that for other people. And selfishly, I just love it, you know. It's amazing. We all get the best job in the world, you know. You know what sucks about Brad? Here's what sucks about him. He's super good at acting. He's got a great career. He's a great guy. And he's funnier than me. It's bullshit. I'm so sick of it. He can't let me have that one thing. It's annoying. We were backstage and they were like saying, it's clearly introducing me. And he's like, I'm going to go out. I'm like, that's hilarious. I never would have thought of that. That's a hilarious idea. God. No, it's great.
You actually wanted to be a writer, correct? Wasn't it Dustin Hoffman who kind of talked you into acting?
Yeah. He gave me my first, he was the one who said you should try to be an actor for your job, and you're a really talented guy, and you're really, you know, just, I would make prank phone calls and stuff, and I was writing plays, and I would act in the plays that I wrote because the plays that I wrote were about me, because when you're 18, you're so self-involved that, or I was, that the only thing I knew was my life, so I hadn't lived much of a life yet. So I would try and find actors at New School to play the part in the play, and I just wasn't expressive enough to be a good director, give notes to actors, and I just was like, I'll just do it myself. So that's what I would do, and then I would make these prank phone calls just for my friends as jokes, and I thought they were really fun and funny, and Dustin really loved them. He thought they were really funny, and he was like, you should be an actor, and I said, you know, I just took it as a really nice compliment, but then he actually went as far as to say, like, you should come audition for this movie I'm doing, and it was a really beautiful, you know, gift that he gave me, and I'm always really appreciative for that.
Did you prank call Dustin Hoffman? How was he aware of?
No, I went to school with his kids, and they're great people, great friends of mine.
And did he overhear you prank calling, or was that something completely separate?
No, I would do them for him. He thought they were funny. Because I would do it with my friends. Like, if I was over at someone's house, I would do it. Like, we were just bored. You were just kids, and you were just bored. So I would just do it. Like, I do it still. I do it all the time. Yeah. I do it when I'm bored. Like, we did it over New Year's weekend. A really amazing prank phone call to do is if you have conference, you can call one Chinese restaurant or one food restaurant and then put on hold and then order some stuff and say, hold on one sec, and then call another one and order some stuff and then conference them together, and then they're talking to each other, and then you put yourself on mute, And they're like, okay, so you want like 3 orders of rice or whatever, and they're like, yes, well, you ordered 3 orders. Well, no, you ordered 3 orders of this. And it's just mayhem, like 2 people that don't understand what the hell's going on. It's really fun. So I would do stuff like that, and then I would call people and just pretend to be like, you know, like really rich people's assistants and ask for really over-the-top, extravagant things, and they just thought he thought it was really funny, and I genuinely believe this, and I know I'm known mostly for being funny and whatever that is, but you know, I really consider myself an actor, and a lot of that comes from being an improvisational actor, and I think a lot of my skills, this sounds insane, and people always, you're gonna laugh, but genuinely, I think prank phone calling people as a kid was the best improvisational exercise you could ever have. I'm being completely genuine, because you're playing a character, you're not being yourself, you create a character, you put yourself out in the real world. It's like what Sacha Baron Cohen did with like Borat. You know, I think that it was basically, he was real life prank calling people. He was just created this brilliant character and went out in the world, and it was so funny and so interesting because it was so real, and people's reactions were real. And you, in a scene, when people are just throwing things at you, you don't know what's coming, you have to react in character. So it was a lot of skill building. I'm serious, do it.
So kids, start making prank phone calls.
I support that. I'm on stage right now in front of nominated for a SAG award because of prank phone calls.
And it must have been so much easier before caller ID.
Yes, well, the game has changed also because the whole game is different now, because people don't, before in my day, in the old days, like, you know, 10, 15 years ago when I was doing this stuff all the time, people didn't have cell phones. So cell phones makes it really hard because people were at home and they would pick up their now they can see caller ID, they don't know the number, they let it go to voicemail, but at home your phone rang and you always picked it up, you know, so you kids are gonna have a harder time. I've ruined this interview.
Did either of you have any mentors along the way who really helped your career, really inspired you?
We were talking backstage. I started with Roy London, who was, I met when I first moved out here at the end of the 90s, and had the great fortune of working with him until he got sick. He's the one who pointed me in the right direction, and yeah, I miss him to this day.
Do you want to tell them how you met him?
I was saying backstage, I met, you know, when I first moved out, I did not know a thing. In fact, if you're ever feeling bad about yourself, go see some of my early stuff, because I did not know a thing. And of course, you take odd jobs to try to, you know, to pay the rent. And one of those jobs was I was driving strippers to bachelor parties, and I basically had to, you know, get them there, get them back, play the music, catch their clothes so the guys didn't steal them, get the money, and out. Anyways, I did that for like 3 months, and it was a really interesting job. Learned a lot. And I decided, okay, I got all I can get out of that. I shouldn't be doing this anymore, and I called up and I said, you know, I'm going to quit. And the guy said, okay, no problem, but just give me one last night. You got to work Sunday night because I'm in a pinch. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And there was a new girl that night who happened to be dating an actor. You know, we talk in the car, you know, you have your conversation. And she's telling me, and I didn't know any actors. I didn't know anyone who knew any actors. And suddenly this woman said she knew this actor. And she was starting this acting class. She was going to take this acting class that he told her to go to. And I said, what's the number? So it was a complete serendipity. I find Roy London, who was just such a lovely force in my life at that time. Done.
Recommended by a stripper.
Yes.
And for you?
Yes. I think, yeah.
Go ahead.
No.
So drive strippers. And you'll
The
find
other
a great
advice.
acting coach. I guess Dustin is someone who started me off, and then, you know, Judd Apatow is someone who's given me a lot of opportunity. You know, started me off in the path that I was on for many years, and then, you know, Bennett and Brad with this opportunity, and Mark and Jay Duplass. I look at like Dustin and Judd and Seth and Evan and that whole group, and then you know, the Duplass brothers for giving me the next step to do something different, and then Brad and Bennett is a step after that to further that progression. I think those are the people that I've really learned the most from.
I would also add to that I grew up on a lot of the '70s films and the Gene Hackmans of that time, the actors of that day, and one of the reasons I held on to Moneyball, it reminded me a little bit of stories that were being told at that time. When I started, I was being taught that, we have this idea that you gotta have a big character arc, like we change, and you're one way, and then you have this epiphany, and you become a good person or a bad. And I've come to believe that's just bullshit. I think that we are who we are, and we evolve or we devolve, but we are who we are. And if you look at the '70s films, a lot of these characters, they were the same beast in the beginning of the movie as they were in the end of the movie. It was just maybe they saw something differently or got the bad guy. Yeah. Popeye Doyle, I'm thinking about. But there was still the obsessive beast or whoever they were as presented in the film. And this one reminded me of that. And it was important to me to keep him that Billy would be the same beast. This didn't change his life. He was the same, or change who he was. He's the same beast at the end of the film as he is in the beginning. He just understands a little more.
An audience question from Colleen Ann Braw. Wants to know, what's something you know now that you wish you had known when you started as an actor?
I'm thinking. I mean, it's a good question.
I have one. I think as an actor, I believe that actors are so nervous by nature that work will never come again, and you are under the impression that, you do, and I did, and everyone does. You do whatever it takes to pay the bills and keep working as an actor. And I think that the interesting thing is when that changes a little bit, and you then have some choice, but you still keep that I still have that mentality of, oh my God, I just have panic, An actor is a panicky job because work is so scarce, and it's freaking tough, And I think even early on, I didn't really have cognitive thought about who I was going to be as an actor and what I was going to be and what I wanted to do. It was more just like, okay, you want me to work for you? Okay, thank you so much. Oh my God. And it's hard to lose that mentality. I think that stays with actors. I've heard actors that are like the most famous actors in the world say they finish a movie and go, oh my God, I'm never going to work again, And I think it's important that even when you're doing whatever it takes and you're not established or whatever it is, to have that boldness and that confidence to know who you want to be as an actor with your choices. And I think Brad, and I'm not just blowing smoke, he really has made incredible choices as an actor. He never did anything, in my opinion, that I just think it's really cool. It's really admirable. Someone in his position from years ago when he was started out and blew up, whatever, could have made a million bad choices and gone down a million bad roads and always was like, this is the kind of guy I want to be, this is the kind of actor I want to be. And that is a really valuable lesson I took away from working with him. And I wish I knew that earlier in my life,
And I would say that when you first get opportunity, suddenly you get surrounded by a lot of people who want to make money off you, but also, are there to help. But they'll start telling you so much of what you need to be or what you need to do in some kind of, to maintain some idea of career maintenance. Mm-hmm. And when you start out, it's very discombobulating, and you are ill-defined at that point as far as direction. What stories are personal to you? What are, so there's two things here is what I'm saying. I'm saying at that point, I wish I knew more just to follow what was interesting to me. Because I mean, man, we're actors. We want to tell stories. We want to tell personal stories, and not just that something you could plug any one of us in and basically get the same thing. Get into something that's really personal, that means something to you, something that you have something to say, something that's really individualized. And I wish I was more aware of that then, instead of doing a few things that I was told would be
Supposed to do.
good for me, and they weren't. Because it left me empty. So I didn't do a good job anyways. And I think that's the key to what we do. It's gotta be personal.
Finally, because we do have so many actors here once again, and another wonderful bonding experience for actors is the audition process. I'm curious if you would be willing to share with us your worst audition experience.
No, but I would like to say something about the auditioning. Yeah. You know, Bennett talks about this a lot. A lot of time, what it takes to get elected in an office, if you think politics, what it takes to get elected has nothing to do with what it takes to govern. And I find that true about the auditioning process as well. You got to. It started. You know, you're sitting in a room and you all kind of look alike, and you're all going over your lines, and you can hear the audition going on inside. And you have these few pages of black lines on white paper, and it says you smile here and you do this there, and you start hearing the same thing over and over. Now you think of the people on the other side there, the people that are running the casting sessions. Man, by the 3rd, the 4th, the 10th, the 20th, you know, they're hearing the same thing, and then suddenly someone comes in and does something different. And it lands. Now, you can't be different for different sake, this doesn't always work, but it's got to, you have to separate yourself from the normal read. And of course it has to be truthful. If it's not truthful, it's not gonna, don't waste your time. But I think that's a key thing. It took me a while to figure out that this isn't necessarily what I would do on the day. But if it's truthful and you can break up the mundane session, that the people, just put yourself in their position. That's all I'm saying.
That's true. I learned the most about auditioning is once I started producing the movies I was in, because then I would sit in casting sessions for 10 hours a day, and you realize, oh my God, the lack of respect that are paid to actors because people are on their BlackBerry or I would talk to the other producers because I would be the only one in the room who had been through that process, and I would go, put your fucking BlackBerry away. You know, like it is so disgusting that this person stayed up for 2 days, and you know, like put your phone away and look at this person in the eye and look at what they prepared, you know, because they had never been through it. They didn't come up like as an actor does, where you go in and you work so hard and you can tell the person's not paying attention, and it's disgusting behavior. You know, why even be there? Leave if you're not gonna pay attention to the person who prepared for you. And so I, you know, now that I produce some of the movies that I'm in, and I know Brad made this film happen, it was such a big producerial part of this movie. As an actor, you understand that these people work really hard to prepare for this stuff, and one of my favorite story from when I'm auditioning, I always tell young actors when I'm talking to them, or if I go to, you know, like my old acting classes or whatever and talk to them, I always say, when I was 18, I had never been on an audition for a sitcom before, and I went to audition for a sitcom that was really, really awful, and it was unfunny, and it didn't make it to air. It was a pilot, and the writers, I was 18, and I had stayed up, and I completely rewrote their pages. So I did a page 1 rewrite of my sides. And I came in, I go like, these guys are gonna love me. Like I totally made their show funnier. You know, this is great. Like I'm not only gonna get the part, but these guys are gonna be like so psyched because their show's way funnier now. And I went in, I was 18, these guys had been writing, you know, probably wrote on like Cheers and stuff, you know, like been in the business for, 20 years. And I went in and I read it and I was like, oh my, I was just like waiting, like, here we go. Like, stop, don't bring all the praise at once. And the guy was like, what did you just read? And I was like, yeah, I punched it up a little bit. Like I did some work on it last night. I was 18, and he was like, what? And he looked at the other guy, and they didn't even say anything. Like they didn't even have a negative response. And I was just like, all right, see you guys. And I fucking was like, booked that shit. And then I got home, and my agent at the time called and already left me a message. So he was like, call me back. And I was like, here we go. Like, let's start negotiating, how big's my trailer, whatever. And he was like, what did you do? And I was like, I just went in there and I crushed it. And he's like, the casting director called me. She's never gonna see you again. The guys were like freaking out. Like what you did was so disrespectful. Like, and I fired my agent the next week, and I was like, this is who I am. Like if I see something should be better, I'm gonna say it should be better. Like then don't work with me. And that was that. And I got a new agent, and I was just like, I was like, yeah, I was just like, this is stupid. Why would you not? And that's the mentality that guys like Brad and Bennett and Judd and the Duplass brothers understand, is that it doesn't matter who has the idea. It matters if the idea is good and there's value, and it's what Moneyball is about. It literally is. It doesn't matter who the person is. It matters if they're valuable to you. Don't put ego out of it. Put faces and beauty and ego and vanity out of it. If someone who's the lowest level on your set has a great idea for your movie, put it in the movie. That's why I love these guys that I've gotten to work around, these people I've gotten to work around,
I do want to congratulate you guys on a fantastic movie. It's career high performances from two people who have had very great careers. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. And thank you guys.
Thank you all. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for coming.